Okay. Hey guys, welcome to Becoming Pro Artists. This is our interview series for rising artists to share their stories and their insights. I'm Julie Huang. I'm the project manager here at Sentient Art Academy, and I'm here with Francesco or Frank Lombardo. Hi, Frank. Welcome.
Hi, Julie. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, excited. So, Frank, you primarily do figure and portrait work in oils and charcoals, but I'm really thrilled by your paintings, which feature translucent, repetitive layers of the subjects, like in your quantum. Yeah, yes, that one right there, like in your quantum Baroque series and your Sibyl series. And am I right that you call this Pentimento? Is that how you say that?
Pentimento.
Oh my God. Okay.
And quantum Baroque. Yeah, you nailed all of it. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, awesome. Yeah, that is the thing that's like, I'm like, wow, this is amazing. I love looking at them. But tell me, what initially inspired this style?
Yeah, so it's been one that's slowly developed over time. And I would say when I look back at what started it, it was stuff that I didn't even really notice at the time. Like the first time I saw Bernini's sculpture, Ecstasy of St. Teresa, I was probably like 19. And I love the sculpture. And it just ended up staying with me and having this kind of profound influence on how I think of these kinds of paintings. And one of the big things that it influenced was he was sort of the first sculptor to take cloth and have it be its own thing around the figure. Like if we look at a lot of Greek and Renaissance sculpture, just before that, it was the cloth was always wet and like clinging to the figure, and it was always kind of submissive to the form. So it was very revealing of the human figure. Like that was its goal. Right. And I see the sculpture by Bernini, and St. Teresa is she's lost in these folds. She's hidden. But in hiding her, it's like he tells me something deeper, which was really profound and kind of over my head at the time, but it stuck with me. And so that's one of the ways that I call these things, quantum Baroque, this style.
Right.
So that's one of the Baroque references, his sculpture and these figures that are buried in cloth.
Right.
And the Pentimento you just mentioned, that's also something that I think the first time I saw that was Picasso's guitar player, I think, where there's this echoed image. Okay, you've got his guitar player, and then you've got this echoed face that he painted over. And I remember my art teacher pointing it out to me because I was just, 15 and not paying attention. And then I saw it and I thought that was really cool. And then I would notice it. I'd be in museums and I'd see where these painters had their hand, posed, the hand that was painted, but then you'd see this ghost image that started to show through.
Yeah.
And I love the movement that created. And then the first time I saw Robert Liberace's artwork, his drawings, he was kind of doing that intentionally. He would intentionally have these little moments of pentimenti, and I love that. And so I just said, I want to incorporate that as an intentional style, not something that's meant to be hidden, but something that's meant to be seen right from the start.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit. I can go on for a long time, but that's a little bit of some of my thinking with these.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. I love that. And I have to say, I'm really curious to know, like, when you're creating a piece and it has all of these, like images kind of like imprinted over, what is your blocking process like? Like, do you block those in right off from the get-go, or do they evolve as you work?
Yeah. So in the beginning, they were very much something I would try to set in stone before I started working. So I would take a lot of photographs of a model I was going to use, take photos of the figure, take photos of the cloth, and I'd build these compositions digitally so that I'd have a pretty good idea of what the final piece was going to look like. And I was very careful and deliberate as I was building these and painting these, so that I didn't take too many risks, let's say. Like once I determined what that image was going to be, I didn't deviate from that too much. I just built it in these sections all at once. And now I'm trying to break away from that a little bit because I want to see some more paint for paint's sake, which means that I want to really just find the image onto canvas instead of having it too plotted out to begin with, just so that I can see some of that looser, more like romantic brushwork.
So a little more spontaneous. Is that kind of like what you're saying?
Yeah.
As you go?
Yeah. See a little bit more energy, a little more spontaneity, and then also just let some of the form get lost and hide a little bit in these brush strokes. Not I guess you could say, like, these earlier paintings, I was really trying to control the paint and subdue it so that, it was the first ones I did, I'd want no brushwork at all. I would just fan it out. I'd use these watercolor brushes to flatten everything.
Right.
And I've slowly moved away from that to start to get more, like you said, spontaneous and energetic with some of the brushwork, and then keep some of it really, really tight, like I had been doing.
I had to scroll in really close to some of your, to some that was in the Quantum Baroque series, because I couldn't tell from my screen, just like zoomed out, what your medium was. I had to keep scrolling and scrolling. I think you probably handle that really, I don't know. It's just really beautiful.
Thanks.
The way you make it translucent.
Sometimes I get people on Instagram or something just saying that's just a digital thing. That's a digital painting. That's not a color painting. And that's always a nice kind of compliment for me in some ways. Cause I'm like, no, I promise it is. Just get closer. You'll see. That
reminds me of those artists that were trying to compete with the early cameras.
Yeah.
Is it digital? Is it oil? We're not sure. We'll find out. I want to share the screen and see if I can share what we're talking about here. Can you guys see that neatly, like in a tidy little box? Yeah.
Looks good.
Okay, good. Thanks. So these are some of what we're talking about here. For those of you who are familiar with Frank's work.
That's a nice little sample there.
Yeah, this is a nice little sample here. This is that skull series, which I also wanted to ask you about, because there's so many really famous paintings with skulls, the uses of skulls, but I also wanted to pick your brain about why you're painting skulls, because you have a whole series, and number 6 is my favorite, by the way, skull number 6, which
thank you.
I don't see it here. This is skull number 6 right there.
Okay. Yeah. I like that one too. And I want to bring, let me start with the skull thing. Okay. They started as, they're small paintings. They're 4 by 5 inch paintings. And they're very small. And I've been painting them for a while now. I'm always just kind of adding to that body of work. And it really started as me just taking a break from a bigger painting. I would finish one of these paintings and I'd be pretty burnt out, but I still wanted to be doing something in the studio. And I like these little skull paintings, they're kind of these little memento mori paintings. Then eventually I would just see this little group of them develop. And I had a little show in Asheville where I created this kind of catacomb space, with these skulls. And at that time I was researching a little bit about catacombs, and I got really interested in how they were these meeting places for all these secret organizations back in the day.
Yeah.
And like illegal cults and all kinds of pirates and stuff. And I just love the idea of people trying to come to decisions about important, scary things when they were surrounded by death. And death was kind of this like extra counselor in the room, that I think probably prompted them to take more risks. So, just the idea of that I thought was great. So I wanted to create this kind of faux catacomb space in this little gallery.
I like how you said that death was the extra counselor in the room. That's
totally right.
Yeah. I like that a lot. But you think that death being the extra counselor in the room prompted them to take more risks?
I think so. I think it was just constantly, dwarfing whatever they were concerned about, because look, it just kept saying, you're not getting out of this alive, no matter what. So
no matter what,
I think it probably got everybody to agree on the riskier stuff.
Yeah. Okay. And I know I said that you do a lot of, on a lighter note, here's some beautiful landscapes, which I know that I kind of introduced you saying that you were well known for your figure work, but here's some gorgeous landscapes.
Thanks. And I've been getting more into landscapes recently. I love being outside. I love hiking, camping. I live really close to Great Smokies Mountains National Park. And I was kind of resistant with landscapes because I just didn't want to take work in there with me. It was sort of like, I just wanted to admire everything. And but with this new style that I've been exploring, with just loosening up with paint and not having to make everything as resolved as these paintings, now it's like landscape is more fun, and I've been enjoying it more. And it doesn't feel like I'm taking work in there. It feels like I can go camping and hiking and get some plein air in too.
So you can relax, but you can also be working. Yeah. Interesting. And are these done in oil right here?
Yeah, these are both oil.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I went along too fast.
That's all good. That's perfect.
These are some of those details. The hand in the middle, I can see how someone would be like, oh, is that digital? I'm guessing that's digital. And that's probably why I too had to really scroll in. And also like your line work and your edge work is so sharp.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. And there's advantages to just try to predetermine everything, right? Just try to build it digitally, get the composition exactly where I want it. Because I'll still run into plenty of problems, and it's still going to be really challenging. So I just try to kind of solve that problem ahead of time when I'm building it. Yeah.
Oh, do you work at all in digital when you plan a piece? Like, do you do any of your planning stages using digital?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I might have just glossed over that when we were talking before, but yeah. So I'll photograph a figure, and then I will build that in Photoshop to look as much like the final painting as I can. So that sort of acts as my reference. And I love doing that, and I want to keep doing that. But yeah, what I was rambling about before was also wanting to try to get away from that in some ways and incorporate things like that skull that we saw dissolving, like techniques like that, or the landscape where I'm just using these natural hair brushes in a looser way. I want to start to merge some of those styles. And that's something else I love about the little skull paintings is they let me play with that kind of stuff. They let me try things out, and then I can bring that into the bigger paintings. Yeah,
I love that. Okay, moving along. Oh, is this the part of the Sybil series? This one in the middle?
Yes. Yeah. So I did about, I don't know, maybe 6 or so in that series. And I started, most of them, I started like the video you see on the right. I started them by painting the charcoal powder.
Right.
Yeah. They're a little larger. They're, I think, about 20 by 30. The figure's about life size in those.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, and I do want to interject real quick that Frank has 2 really fabulous courses. One is a new release that involves charcoal painting specifically with Sentient. So we'll make sure we direct you guys to that as well.
Yeah, I'm really proud of that one, and I'll keep adding to that series.
Yeah, that's an exciting series. Okay.
Yeah.
Inspirations. Yeah.
These are some of my.
Is this the sculpture that you're talking about?
That's the one. Yeah, that's Ecstasy of Saint Teresa. Yeah, so you can see the cloth is not submissive to the form, right? Like the form is just lost in that. It's just these billowing folds. And yeah, it planted a seed that just kind of is still growing in me to this day of ideas and tangents and what that means. And on the left is a self-portrait by Odd Nerdrum.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I want to ask you about him too.
Yeah. So I was lucky enough to get a Fulbright to go to Iceland a long time ago. And I met him over there. And then I went and studied with him a little in Norway. And I love this painting because I was painting these small heads that were just kind of not quite as maybe dark as his. But I was in his studio working on them. And then he started working on this very painting. And I don't want to flatter myself, but I was so hoping that maybe I had some small influence on his choice of subject for that day. But I love Odd Nerdrum's paintings for the way they, that Rembrandt-esque style of just totally celebrating paint for paint's sake. I took my rendering a very different direction, but I still just absolutely love his work. And now I'm coming to a point where I kind of want to incorporate some more of that kind of style into my painting.
So you went to Iceland first on the Fulbright, and then you went to study with Odd Nerdrum. Okay.
And Norway.
I have so many questions about this whole period of your experience. First of all, I I suppose I should start with the Fulbright, but that feels like a bigger subject. So I'm going to start with, I have a couple questions about Odnerdrum. Did you choose Odnerdrum because he was like because his work is really unique. I flipped through some of his stuff from like the 70s. Yeah. Some of it's kind of, I don't know, it elicits a little bit of that, like we're in the catacombs and death is the other counselor kind of a feeling.
Yeah. Definitely has that feeling.
Yeah. Is that something that you gravitate to for inspirations in general, or is that just kind of part of it?
I guess, and my inspirations have definitely changed over the years, right? Like this was probably, like 20 or so years ago that I was there. But I would say, at that time and still now, I like some of the darkness in his work, that kind of existential weirdness going on in his paintings. And I liked him even more when I got to see him painting them, and just how much he just loved the process of it, and how much it was part of who he was and his everyday experience of it. And, it just made everything even that much more honest. But yeah, so sometimes my influences don't always end up influencing the exact style I choose or the exact kind of feel, right? But there's always something, there's something I still get from that, like a mood, or maybe it's just the surface quality. Yeah. It's still definitely affects me and inspires me.
Yeah. And then you went, but you started out in Iceland on a Fulbright grant, and that's a big deal. Like they don't like pass those out to anyone who puts their hand out. Like,
yeah, I was very happy and surprised. I think I applied for maybe like 11 residencies that year, and I got all these no's where I was hoping for a yes. And then I suddenly got a yes for that. And I remember I called my parents and I kept reading them the acceptance part. And I said, I must be reading this wrong. It sounds like they're saying I can go.
It sounds like.
I was like underlining it and trying to parse it and be like, am I missing a comma somewhere? Like, it seems like I got it.
That's hilarious. But your reaction is probably because they're so difficult to get.
Yeah. So, I was very happy.
Okay. So I have a couple of questions about this Fulbright grant. First of all, am I correct that you had some choice in where you went to study, and Iceland was an option, or do they assign that?
No, once you get it, at least then they were very flexible. They wanted to see a good game plan ahead of time, but they also expected you to, change as you needed to. So I spent the first about 5 months in Reykjavik, and there was a little art school there that was super generous with giving me a space to work. And then I spent the next 5 months in Seyðisfjörður on the other side of the island. And I actually met these two brothers that had this abandoned fish factory that they let me stay in and have a studio in. And it was the part of the factory where the workers lived. So it was not the fish processing part. So it did not smell like fish. Okay.
That's what I was wondering. I'm imagining
everybody asks. That's the immediate follow-up question. Yeah. I was there. Yeah, I was there for about 5 months. And then I was really happy that they actually turned in the studio space. They turned it into this little artist residency after I left the little town of Seyðisfjörður. So it's been like continuing to, I guess I inspired them. I was this weird guy sleeping on this little cot in there. And
he's so cool. Look at him in there.
Yeah. I hope not. Maybe at best of times, that's what they were thinking. I think I was the weird American guy. Yeah.
But you inspired them. Now it's this like art residency place.
Yeah. Now it's a cool little thing. Yeah.
That's awesome. And why did you choose Iceland? What was your?
Yeah, it was just the combination of things I could see there in the landscape. It was like we have beautiful. Yeah, we have a little bit of everything Iceland has, except they have it in like the size of Rhode Island, right? You can see everything there, from deserts to glaciers to the sea to cliffs. And I loved Odnerdrum's landscapes before that. These fjords and these kind of cold, barren expanses I thought were so cool. Yeah. These rocky, mossy kinds of Lord of the Rings style things.
Yeah.
I loved all that. And it didn't hurt that when I was looking through the countries that I could apply to, Iceland was, they say what they're favorable towards, and Iceland says they love artists. So I said, okay, this is maybe a good match.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And then that's where you met Odd Nerdrum while you were there. And then is that correct?
Yeah, it was this funny thing where I was there and Odd Nerdrum actually came to give a talk at my college that I had just graduated from a few years back. And the chair of painting there asked me to put a painting in the show in his honor for when he came by. So he saw the painting, and then the chair of painting said, "Oh, that guy's in Iceland right now. And he has a house in Iceland, which is a massive, beautiful studio. It's like the old library in Reykjavik."
Oh,
so I met him in this weird kind of roundabout way like that.
Oh, that is a weird roundabout way.
Yeah.
How interesting. Yeah. And kind of lucky too.
Yeah.
You liked him already.
Lucky.
Yeah.
I liked him already. He's an amazing guy. And he's a really nice guy too. He was just super generous, super laid back. His wife was great. Like, it's always nice to, sometimes I'm scared to meet somebody I really admire, but
yeah, I've heard some horrible stories.
Yeah.
Like you idolize someone so hard, and then you finally meet them. They're like quite mean and not very nice.
And then you're like, oh no, am I still going to like your paintings now or something? Yeah.
So do you have any advice for other artists who are interested in applying for a Fulbright? If someone was maybe thinking, Yeah,
good question. I would say definitely research, like Fulbright puts out a great catalog where every country will say what they're looking for, So if you see a country that is saying something like we're looking for neuroscience and AI, and they're not necessarily saying they're against the arts, but they are saying they're against the arts. So like, you have a much better chance at a country that is going to say that they want artists there. So figure that out first. And then I mean, everybody told me expect to fail the first time you apply. Like that's just the norm. So I expected that. The application is lengthy. I mean, you've got to write your senator and get approval from your senator. Like it's all this stuff. But once you do that application, you can handle any other grant or residency application like it's a 5-minute thing. So that's the one huge advantage. Just go through the process, and then you're just in beast mode with applications from then on out, because you have every question answered you could think of.
It kind of sounds like it'd be a good idea to apply almost for like the experience of just doing that really hard follow through of applying for this. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You get through it, and then all that stuff that even if you don't get it, your proposal, your motivation, it's all going to sit with you, and it's going to be in your subconscious, and you're going to be like, oh, you know what? I'm going to even beef that up in a better way or something like that.
Yeah.
And if nothing else, you just in preparing for this interview, I love preparing for interviews because I have to go back over all my motivations and inspirations and thoughts. And then I'm like, oh yeah, that's why I'm painting. That's right. It kind of revitalizes you in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That's really good. That's really good advice. And it's also heartening to know that it kind of prepares you for all these other things you might want to apply for. So. Oh,
absolutely. Artist residencies, everything like that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to go through some of these other inspirations. Before we move on, tell me about these ones.
Yeah. So on the figures that are throwing that rock or that ball, that's Robert Liberace. Mm-hmm. And then the figures that are piled on each other with those thin ropes, that's Jenny Saville. And I got to see that particular painting by Jenny Saville in about, I think it was like 2002, 2003. Mm-hmm. In, I want to say, Marlborough Gallery in the Chelsea district in New York, I think. Massive paintings. I mean, these paintings are like 12 by 20 feet or something. They're huge, maybe even bigger than that. And they all just floored me. Like it was it was an experience of seeing these paintings and what can be done with paint.
Yeah.
And the theme with a lot of these is just this multiplicity, these repeated forms, losing and then finding parts of the figure again. And same with Robert Liberace's drawing. Like I love his kind of intentional pentimenti and his showing of movement. So I wanted to take that, what he was doing. I just didn't want it to be quite as linear as his, right? I didn't want you to be able to see the beginning and the end.
Yeah.
I wanted it to have more that Baroque composition where it's sort of centerless, right? There's no real beginning or end, maybe a little more like Jenny Seville's figures.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and then some flowers. Yeah. I think I threw this one in just in case we talked about landscape stuff more, but this was an older commission piece. And you can see I was much tighter here.
Yeah, you are really tight.
Yeah. And this is what I didn't want to bring into having my, hikes and backpacking camping time in the Smokies.
Yeah.
Cause yeah. But the idea of bringing a tripod easel and, doing these single sitting alla prima landscapes, like closer to what we saw before. Yeah. That's much more appealing and fun for me right now.
Yeah. This style, like I would not even guess that this was your work, to be quite honest, just based on
based on those other ones.
What you're working on lately. Yeah. But it's still beautiful. I mean, so beautiful.
Thanks. Yeah. I still like it in some ways. Yeah.
This is the one behind you, right?
This is the one behind me. And this was my latest addition to that Quantum Baroque series. And the next paintings I want to have them probably have like this kind of celestial theme. But I want to bring in some of the elements of surface and painterly quality and those other things I was talking about before. And I'm still exploring that. So I'm not jumping into another big painting right this second. I still want to get a little bit of a better idea of what it's going to mean, like what these changes are going to mean.
Yeah. So you think maybe a totally new series, or is it going to be an expansion of this current series?
I think it'll be new in some ways, but it'll probably be close enough in a lot of ways that it'll look like an expansion.
Yeah. I just love the fabric. I will say, when I was in high school, I was playing around with painting some little fabric bits like this. And I could never get it right. I was a high schooler, but my eyeballs could get it right. My eyeballs could see exactly how perfect it was. And that just reminds me of some of the stuff I was looking at that time. So beautiful.
Thanks. Yeah. So to get that fabric piece like right by her hand there with the stars on it, I actually bought this pretty large fish tank from this pet supply store. Yeah. And I filled it with water and then put the fabric in there and was just photographing this floating fabric. And it worked out pretty well. I was happy with these weird, cool, images I would get. Before I would do these, I mean, if you saw me doing it, you would think I was totally crazy. I was just this guy like throwing up fabric, clicking my remote camera button, trying to capture it right. People would be like walking their dogs, walking by and just kind of look the other way.
He's that weird guy.
Because I would just do this for like a half hour until I felt like I got, 150 images and maybe 4 would be good.
That's kind of genius to put it in a fish tank though.
Yeah, I was very happy with it. I thought the lighting would be tough because it would be too reflective, but as long as you have the lights on an angle, you're good. It's perfect. Yeah.
And it really goes with that flow of where she's hanging in midair and yeah.
Right. Sure. Just kind of try to play into that. Yeah.
Yeah, that is really beautiful. So Frank, I'm curious to know a little bit about your childhood. Like, where did you grow up? What was your family like? Were they art people?
No.
He has to leave. No. Okay, change the subject.
No. I had a good childhood. Yeah. I didn't have any artists in the family, but they were always very supportive. When I was probably about maybe 14 or 15, I started drawing on my walls in my bedroom. Mostly these comic books I would copy. And my family was really supportive of that. They were great. So it was, it's hindsight's 2020. There's so many things I would have done different at each stage.
Yeah.
And I had no real vision of what it would look like to be an artist versus today, where I can find 50 in 3 minutes on Instagram of exactly,
Yeah. Social media changes that a lot. Yeah.
So much. Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that funny with the way that when we were growing up and dabbling in the arts, I did more vocal stuff, but like we really didn't have the kind of instant access to what was going on in that world at the time.
No, I mean, it was the same books, museums was great, but yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think we were looking at encyclopedias to get, our 4 paragraphs of information on something.
Yeah. That is really crazy. When did you decide you wanted to be a professional artist? When was that?
I would say, and my mom was great in helping me with this. She got me into this pre-college program when I think I was 16. So the college I eventually went to, Maryland Institute College of Art, had this pre-college program. I got into that, and I think it was really there that I thought, okay, I do really want to do something with the arts. And still not having that vision, and without the vision, I sort of didn't really have the confidence to say I'm going to be an artist. I was thinking I'll be a teacher. I'll just teach art, and maybe I'll make some on the side. And then just after going to that school and talking more with professors, and then meeting students that had gone to these things called magnet schools I had never heard of at the time, who were taking studio classes since they were like 13. Then I realized I started to get more confident and get more of a picture of what it could look like to do both, to be an artist and make money with my art, and then teach because I wanted to, not just as like, oh, I have to do that as a job.
Yeah. Not like a fallback, but also just a desire to teach. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I am aware of a couple teaching points that you have that I personally find interesting or that I appreciate. The first, I love this. I love that you say this because I really know this is true, that talent is like an illusion, because anyone can become good at creating art. So my son is a talented artist, and he's often told so. And I cringe every single time because I just know that if people walk around saying, "Oh, you're so talented," he's just going to lose that drive. It's going to like undercut his drive to like work hard or like, keep improving and growing. So I just love that you say that. What causes you to think along those lines?
Well, first I want to say I'm so glad you say that to your son. I mean, that's so good because I have taught some younger people, and I remember there was one person, she was maybe 14 at the time, and she was talented. I mean, she was really good just naturally. There are those people. There are people that can pick up a paintbrush and they'll be John Singer Sargent within the hour. Like they exist. But also those people that I knew in high school that were just inherently good never got any better because of exactly what you said. They were just kind of fed this. Yeah, it's like a curse. And so I told her, I said, yeah, you're good now, but you need to push yourself or this is going to happen. I tried to put as much future fear of like, you're going to stagnate into her. And she's doing great. She's amazing now. So I hope that I had some influence there. But I want to break through this idea that we put so much time into this stuff. I put so many hours into getting better. And I was never the person out the gate that was good, never. Yeah. I've had to work at it. I had a natural inclination to want to get good at it, but I was never just that person that could make good art. Yeah. And I love when I'm able to teach someone something and then they say afterwards, like, oh, you made that a lot more clear. I understand this now. And it's always just proof that, you don't have to start out with any kind of talent. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so true. One of the other things that you say that I find really interesting is how you say practice doesn't make perfect, it makes permanent, which I'm sure this is true, but I have concerns about this and you can tell me all about it. Okay. So I feel like this is like a little bit of a slap in the face to someone who's like hiding in their closet and like creating art in a frugal vacuum. So because historically art is a privilege of the wealthy. It's like, if you want to own art, if you want to create art, even currently in a more recent U.S. census, it suggests that artists even today tend to come from wealthier families.
Yeah.
So what would you say to someone who's like, well, I'm in here in my closet creating art in a vacuum. I really can't afford to go out and get those workshops or those whatever. What would you say? What would your advice be?
That's a great question, right? Because I think that's probably the norm for the majority of people, right? They can't just afford workshops. They can't just travel. They can't even get the ideal materials in a lot of cases. But the one thing, especially everybody can do now, is just get into that DM and ask for help. Just, you've got the artist you like, comment on their thing, and because anytime someone reaches out to me, and I wish I had done more of this, I was just self-conscious and shy. I had these artists that I'd follow, and I'm thinking, they don't want to, I'm going to waste their time. They don't want to hear from me. But if someone just asks me a question, I'll take the time to answer whatever question they ask. They send me a DM and they have a question about painting or the charcoal or the medium or anything I use. So everybody has access to that. I mean, phones are pretty ubiquitous today. And the practice makes permanent thing is, I guess it's also in relation to materials, but I know I'll be in an art supply store sometimes and I'll see somebody getting materials for their first painting class and they can afford anything they want in that store. And I just have to keep myself from intervening and saying that paint's going to give you so much trouble. And that brush and that surface is not going to do what you want it to do. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like they'll be like, oh, painting's impossible. Or they'll just get so used to this subpar result. They'll think, yeah, that's the best I can do.
That's the best I can do because their materials are limiting them.
Yeah. Even though they in that case, even though they could afford it. But sometimes limited materials can be great. That's kind of what I wanted to do with the charcoal powder paintings.
Right.
Just be super limited. One tool or two tools, the brush, the eraser, charcoal powder, and not get caught up in the whole dizziness of freedom. There's with so many options that we almost get immobilized sometimes. Yeah.
Because you make your own charcoal powder. That's part of a course that you just released with us.
Yes.
And you said something about, if you correct me, you're going to have to correct my phrasing of this, but if you're able to make your own medium at some point, like the charcoal powder, that you should try it. You should do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just the experience of that, and it can be anything you're interested in making in terms of, your art process. It doesn't have to be charcoal powder, but I like the charcoal powder because I think we can actually make it even a little bit better sometimes than what's available. We can get the exact consistency we want, versus when we try to make our own cerulean blue, like we're going to have trouble beating blocks in Old Holland and stuff like that. Like if I try to make my own paintbrush, like Rosemary's probably still going to be in the lead, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't try it. Like if people want to do that, I think that's great. But the experience of like going outside, getting a piece of wood, and then going through that process I described in the video, and then you have this cool medium to paint with, and that connection to the medium feels pretty cool to me. I like that.
Yeah. Geez, that huge piece of wood in the video like shrunk down to like this little.
It shrinks down. Yeah.
It was great to watch though. It's definitely fresh. It's so fresh. Another thing I wanted to ask you a little bit, and you don't have to talk about this a lot if you really don't feel like it, but how you are color blind.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We can talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about that. How does that affect your process?
Yeah, so that's an ongoing part of it for sure. So I've got that red-green deficiency. I think it's mostly a green deficiency. It's hard to know exactly what I'm not seeing, right? But
exactly.
Yeah, it's the one that's typical. And I think it's maybe 10% of guys have it for the most part. And it's definitely always played a part in how I work. And at times I'll try to push the limits of that. And then at times it's more about acceptance and, doing something that has no connection to that issue, like with the charcoal paintings or a monochromatic painting or something like that. So I'm always pushing the limits of that and then stepping back. And I do like some of the workarounds that I found, like with how I arrange my palette. I find that people with color normal vision let's say, also like that. They see how I'm arranging my palette and they're like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. So it's like, I only did that because I had to, but it's also can be very useful for someone who doesn't have any red-green issue. I've been using a site called Sensual Logic by this guy. I think he's in like Sweden or something. And it's a color picker. So I can, put my image up there, pick the color, and then it'll show me the oil paint mixture to get that color. So it'll show me like if I'm using Gamblin paints, it'll be like use this many, parts burnt sienna, this much yellow ochre. And that's been a game changer too. I love that. So now I'm, when I discover something like that, then I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to try to push my limits a little bit more here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, Oh no, you keep going.
I just want to say one more thing. I think I'll have access to this at some point in my life. There's a guy out in Seattle, him and his wife, the Nietzes, I believe is their last name, Nietz, Jay Nietzsche, I think is his name. He has actually cured color blindness. So he's found the gene and he's created this, retrovirus that would go into your retina. And he's actually given color vision to certain primates that never even had a red cone, and they can see red now. So it's successful. It's happened. I called him one night on the phone at I don't know, it's some evening. I just called and he picked up surprisingly at his lab. And he was, this goes back to the asking for help thing. He was the nicest guy in the world. He was not annoyed. We talked for like 20 minutes. I told him, I'm really excited about his research and that's
amazing.
Yeah. So at some point in my life, I'm hoping that will be FDA approved. We'll see.
Yeah, that would be amazing. That's remarkable. But they're testing it on apes right now.
Yeah. I think it's like chimps, apes, primates of some kind that have they can see color now. They can see red. Yeah.
That's remarkable. Does the different way that you view colors, does that affect some of your preferences to work with charcoal? Like, is that a part of that at all?
In some ways, but not as much as you might think, right? Mm. Yeah, the charcoal was more me forcing myself to be super loose with the medium, right? Like I can't be tight in that style. I have to be very loose. I have to be very intentional with each brush stroke and just sort of accept where things are going. And that was the main thing. But also having it just color be off the table definitely does make it a lot easier for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Just if you have that extra thing you have to think about to remove that, I bet would be kind of a nice exercise anyways.
Yeah.
Tell me about, so do you have anything exciting coming up in your future that like trips or goals or anything like that?
Yeah, let's see. We had a really exciting trip to Greece last year. That was wonderful.
Neat.
Yeah. And I don't know if we don't have another big trip planned yet this year. But I would love to go back we went to Athens and then went into the country a little bit to Meteora.
Do you do a lot of painting of architecture when you're out there? Is that kind of your emphasis or?
I wasn't sure what it would be, but I did some work of like sculpture / architecture, the caryatids on the Acropolis. Yeah. I did some gouache paintings and sketches and a little oil painting of them. But also it was a trip that we were doing together. Me and my girlfriend. So I didn't want to, turn it into my art trip, which would involve me just being alone for the entire trip working. But sometime I'll go back and just have a little solo art trip there probably. And then upcoming things, as far as travel, nothing's been absolutely decided yet. But I would love to take an art trip at some point. I've just been, I do have one exciting thing that I can think of right now is I bought a truck not too long ago, and I'm actually outfitting the back of the truck so that it can be like a camping art vehicle. So I can drive into the Smokies, camp there, and then hike and do my plein air painting and then like store it in the truck. I'm really excited to show a video of the build out once it's finished. But
that sounds like a cool project.
It's a cool project. I didn't think I was Yeah. Somebody just hashtag van life. So yeah, there's definitely some van life vibes with that.
We had an art gentleman park in our driveway with his traveling van situation for like
Nice.
a week. My kids still refer to him as the guy with the van.
That's great. They tell their friends, yeah, the guy with the van, he's living in our driveway. Yeah.
There's a big van in our driveway. Yeah. But that's really awesome. That sounds like a neat project and kind of a cool tool to get around and, you know.
Yeah. I'm excited about that. So I bought a bunch of the materials for it. Just wanted to finish up a couple of the things first, but I've been watching all these, there's YouTube videos galore on guys
how to make it.
Yeah, do amazing versions of their own. No art trucks yet for storing paintings and stuff like that. But yeah.
You're going to have to make your own video series on it.
I'll put mine up for that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. And I know that you have, I'm looking at the questions really quick. There's lots of, Jeff Hine is doing a build too. Okay. Interesting.
Oh, nice.
Lots of comments about, someone said existential weirdness is a fantastic way to put it. That's funny. That must be way early in our conversation. But I'm wondering if you have any favorite reference materials that you would recommend.
Oh, actually, I would probably ask our audience for reference materials and see what they tell me, because I've all my figure references are my own. They're just photos I take, and all the cloth, the images I get are always public domain. But there's just such a growing supply. I think is it James Howard Art? Correct me if I'm wrong, on Instagram. I believe he's really well known for his figure reference material.
Did you say Howard Lyon?
Howard Lyon. Sorry. Yes, that's it. Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm probably going to get some from him pretty soon, because it's so prevalent now that people are making that available. And I'm not a photographer. It's just,
not your skill
the
set.
digital camera. Yeah. It's a numbers game with me. Like if I take enough photos, one will look good.
Yeah. And actually, Sentient students can use a special discount to get a discount off of Howard Lyon's like photo packs.
That's good.
Yeah, I guess it's just Sentient. So if anyone was interested in doing that, or if you were interested in doing that too, Frank, because his packages are amazing. I scrolled through them. I was like, oh, wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. When he puts the samples up, I'm like, okay, this is amazing. I gotta get some. Yeah. Yeah.
So good. Yeah. And he does a really nice variety of the subject and the models, and yeah. Okay. I'm seeing on here, Savannah, clarify what you mean by such as books for study.
So when I was initially asking about reference materials that you're recommending, that's back when you were talking about pre-YouTube social media days.
Oh, yeah.
I'm curious what you started with and what you use now, like as far as literature to study from.
Got it.
Oh, in terms of, so literature to study from. Okay. I mean, the most profound thing I've come across in the last couple of years really is Heidegger's essay. I believe it's called The Origin of the Work of Art. It's a dense read, as you'd probably guess from the name Heidegger, but it's a profound effect on how I understand my own art. And it's like we collect these little influences and these ideas over the years. And then sometimes somebody comes along and they tell you why you've been collecting them, and they make it all make sense. And that's what he did for me in a lot of ways. He's just like, oh, that's why I'm thinking like that. That's why I'm drawn to this, Bernini sculpture and these other things, and what's actually going on here. So I would recommend every artist suffer your way through that, or at least get the notes on it, because he's pretentious. It's dense. He has a troubled history. You don't have to like him, but the essay on the origin of the work of art is good.
Okay. Here's another question. How do you plan to frame the circle piece behind you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the company I got it from, they also sell this material that's a little thicker, probably, I think I can get it up to 2 inches thick, and they have a sort of CNC machine laser cutter thing there. So we worked out basically just cutting a circular frame from this material that's very responsive to being painted. And so I'll just I'll have the frame cut there. I had some plans for possibly doing it with wood, and then just, I mean, I can't be a full-time carpenter. So probably going to get it from them. And then either I'm going to paint it myself, or I know a faux artist, so I might try to get her to make me a really cool frame.
Did you say faux artist?
Faux artist, like she'll do faux marble, faux wood. Yeah. She's not like a fake. Yeah, she's a fake artist. Yeah.
She's a fakeo. She does frames.
Yeah. No, not like that. Yeah. She can make any material look like anything. She could do an amazing frame for sure.
That would be amazing. Okay. So would you do like a faux marble for the frame effect around that to coordinate with that image?
I think I'd probably just keep it pretty subdued. Maybe just make it look like a frame. I mean, faux marble might be amazing.
I know when you said that, I kind of was like, ooh.
Yeah. That could be really cool. Yeah. So, all right. Now you planted that seed. I'll think about that.
Yeah, I think it could be really special. You'll have to take pictures on what you choose in the end, because it's really, really interesting. Okay, here is another question. What is your favorite part about your studio? Because your studio looks extremely pleasant.
Oh, thank you. Well, like you said earlier, the cherry tree. I love the cherry tree. It's ephemeral. It's fast.
It's nice to work hard.
Yeah, it was. I'm sorry about all the snow you guys have, but yeah.
Literally woke up to like this much snow.
Oh man, yeah. No, it's like 65 degrees here. It's sunny. Yeah. Sorry. But right now I'm working from home. I have a studio that I still sublet, that I was renting, but I ended up buying this house that I had been renting. And then when I bought it, I was like, oh, I've got all this room. Let me turn this one into a studio. And I don't want to sound like I don't like community. I love community, but I do love having a studio where I'm just alone most of the time working. I feel like I can focus so much better. I think, and the question was maybe my favorite part of the studio, or
but I definitely want to ask more questions about working from home versus working at a studio.
Yeah, sure. We'll go into that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then then you can talk more about your studio. But so I actually really relate to that, where being at home and having your workspace be in your home can just like kind of hone in the creative juices and the focus. But is that overall, would you say you do prefer to work from home? You don't prefer to work outside?
I would say that I wouldn't mind working outside of my home, but I love that just having it be my own space and not set in like a communal studio environment. I love hanging out with all my artist friends, but I guess I kind of want to separate those, have our time to just get together, have coffee, get a drink, talk, versus me just being in my own headspace in my studio. I thought maybe having it at home would be too much, and the psychological not having that separate space, to another place might bother me, but I love it. I love it. I love just waking up to it. Yeah.
So you're more productive at home?
Yeah. I feel like I've been very productive at home. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because when you're working, even though you're in a community space, you're not actually having quality community time. You're working. You're actually trying to like shut them out, I'm sure, to a degree.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I'm just trying to have all those ideas in my head and get clear on things. And I think some people work really well with the community and that, and they can just they feed off of that. For me, I had an upstairs neighbor, so it's feet moving around. It's other music. It's stuff that's like just not having it at home is wonderful.
Yeah. Okay. And then back to your favorite part of your studio. You mentioned the cherry tree. Is there anything else?
I like my painting setup. Those are all paint tubes behind me.
Yeah, I
might add to that. But I do like how I have them set up there. They all the oil will come to the top. I like that, so I can just kind of pour it off if I want to, and just have that really thick paint.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, it's nice. I have my camera set up is a little bit fragile right now, so I don't want to be moving around too much in my studio.
You're fine.
But
you can just point.
I'll point. There's a wood stove hidden right over there. That's my little heater that I've been using right now.
Oh, nice.
Because it's so warm here, I don't need the wood stove anymore. Sorry, everybody. No.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like having the little wood stove. That's nice. And I got a bird feeder right outside that window. So I'm 43 now. Yeah, and I suddenly like birds a lot. I think it just happens. Yeah.
Yeah. There's something that happens. This has happened to me as well. I now have like those Audubon Society books by my dining room table. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a mountain chickadee.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, I love my chickadees. Yeah. We've got our black cap chickadees here, Carolina chickadees. And yeah, I've got my girlfriend got me this pamphlet that has all the birds of Western North Carolina. So yeah, I'm doing well. I've got like 12 of them down so far.
Yeah, I know. I do the same thing where I'm like, okay, another one memorized. I can recognize that one by. That's funny. Yeah,
so I love that. Yeah, I love seeing them. That feels really good. And my cat's always around too, so I always get like a break to pet my cat. That's always really nice.
Oh, that is really nice. Yeah, I have a dog that follows me around. So yeah, a break to pet your fur creature.
Yeah.
I don't want to forget to mention your newsletter art giveaway situation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that? There's a link in the comment, everybody, currently. Yes. But go ahead and talk about it.
Yeah. So I've got a little giveaway going on right now. I'm giving away one of my, I guess I didn't feature one of them in our slideshow. I'm sorry about that. One of the little chick paintings. And that's also related to the skull paintings. I guess it's the other side of that. They're more just about life and bright colors. And I'm giving away one of those. All you have to do is sign up for my newsletter. You can unsubscribe anytime, but I'll pick one random winner from that Easter Day, which I believe is the 9th. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's really exciting. Okay. Alrighty. Does anyone have anything else that they want to interject? We have only a minute left. 3 minutes left, but it goes by really, really fast. Or anything you want to plug in, Frank, that we missed that I forgot to ask you about?
No, I think you did a great job. We did pretty well.
Covered everything.
If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions. But yeah, we covered. That was good. We covered everything.
We did some good covering. Yeah. Okay. Well, if there's no more questions, forever hold your peace. I just want to thank everyone for coming. And I know most of the people that are going to be watching this will be watching it after the fact. So thank you everyone for watching, even if it's after the fact. And thank you so much, Frank, for taking your time today, joining us. And
it was my pleasure. I'm honored. Thank you for having me.
All right. Awesome. Okay, guys, have a great afternoon.
See you
Bye.
guys.